The delivery room was supposed to be the happiest place in the world for Lisa. After hours of labor, she finally held her beautiful twin babies in her arms, their tiny hands grasping onto her fingers. But just as she let out a sigh of relief, the unthinkable happened. A police officer barged into the room, his badge gleaming under the hospital lights. His smile wasn't warm. It was cold, calculating. Before Lisa could even process what was happening, he snatched one of the babies from her arms. "These babies don't belong to you," he muttered, his grip tightening around the newborn. Lisa's heart pounded as she clung to her other child, her voice shaking. "What are you doing? Give me back my baby," she pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. The nurse stood frozen, unsure of what to do. The officer ignored Lisa's cries and started walking toward the door, his intentions horrifyingly clear. Just then, footsteps echoed from the hallway. A deep, commanding voice cut through the chaos. "Put that baby down." Now, the officer turned, his smug expression fading in an instant. Lisa's husband had arrived, and he wasn't just any man. He was a judge. The room fell silent as Lisa's husband, Judge Malcolm Carter, stepped inside. His sharp eyes locked onto the officer, his jaw clenched with controlled fury. Dressed in his suit, he carried an air of authority that couldn't be ignored. But the officer didn't back down. Instead, he smirked, shifting the baby in his arms. "This woman can't prove these babies are hers," the officer said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "We got a report about suspicious activity, and I'm just doing my job." Lisa gasped, her grip tightening around her remaining child. "Suspicious activity?" she repeated in disbelief. "I just gave birth. You think I stole my own children?" Her voice cracked, but she refused to let her fear show. Judge Carter took a slow step forward. "And who exactly reported this?" His voice was low, steady, but dangerously firm. The officer hesitated, his confidence faltering. He glanced toward the door, as if looking for backup, but no one came. Lisa could see the unease creeping into his face. He wasn't expecting a fight, not from a woman lying in a hospital bed, and certainly not from a judge. But Malcolm wasn't leaving without his family, and he wasn't letting this go. The officer shifted uncomfortably, but his grip on the baby remained firm. Lisa's breathing grew shallow as she fought back tears. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her children, about the life they had just begun. She looked at her husband, her only hope in this nightmare, and saw the fire burning in his eyes. Malcolm stepped closer, his voice like steel. "I want the name of whoever made that report." Now, his presence filled the room, demanding respect. The officer hesitated, his fingers twitching as if debating whether to stand his ground or back down. Lisa glanced at the nurse, who had been frozen in shock until now. The woman finally found her voice. "This woman was admitted properly," she stammered. "She's been here for hours. She's the mother." The officer scoffed but avoided Malcolm's gaze. "I'm just following orders." Lisa's pulse quickened. Orders? From who? Her mind raced, searching for an explanation. But before she could say another word, another figure appeared in the doorway. A second officer, older, with a hardened face. He exchanged a glance with the first officer and then, without a word, reached for his radio. Something bigger was happening, and Lisa knew they weren't safe yet. Lisa's heart pounded as the second officer lifted his radio, speaking in a low, unreadable tone. Malcolm's eyes never left the first officer, his fists clenched at his sides. The baby in the officer's arms let out a tiny cry, and Lisa's stomach twisted. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to get up, to fight, to take back what was hers. But she was weak from labor, her body trembling as she tightened her hold on her other child. Malcolm took another step forward, his voice dark and commanding. "If you don't hand my child back right now, you'll be answering to more than just me. I know the law, and I know you're breaking it." The first officer's smirk faltered. The second officer lowered his radio, watching the scene unfold with wary eyes. The tension in the room was suffocating. Lisa felt trapped, helpless, as if time had slowed down. The baby let out another wail, and it was too much. Lisa's voice broke through the silence. "Please," she whispered, her eyes pleading. "Give me back my baby." But before anyone could move, heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. A deep, authoritative voice called out, making both officers stiffen. Someone else had arrived, and everything was about to change. The footsteps grew louder, each step echoing with authority. Lisa turned her head just as a tall man in a gray suit stepped into the room. His badge flashed under the harsh hospital lights, FBI. The air shifted instantly. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence cracking. Malcolm's expression remained unreadable, but Lisa saw the slight flicker of recognition in his eyes. The FBI agent scanned the room, his gaze settling on the baby in the officer's arms. His voice was calm but firm. "Put the child down." The first officer hesitated, gripping the newborn just a little tighter. "I have jurisdiction here," he shot back, but his voice wavered. The agent took a slow step forward. "No, you don't," he said coolly. Then turning to Malcolm, he added, "Judge Carter, we've been investigating a series of unlawful custody cases tied to corrupt officers. I believe your family is now a target." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't a mistake. It was planned. But why? Before she could ask, the second officer suddenly reached for his belt. Malcolm's eyes darkened. "Don't," he warned. The room was a heartbeat away from chaos, and Lisa knew the fight wasn't over yet. The room felt like it was teetering on the edge of an explosion. The second officer's hand hovered near his belt, his eyes darting between Malcolm and the FBI agent. Lisa clutched her baby tighter, her pulse racing. Then, in a single tense moment, the first officer let out a frustrated breath and slowly lowered the newborn back into Lisa's arms. Her body sagged with relief, but she wasn't ready to let go of the fear just yet. The FBI agent kept his gaze locked on the officers. "You two are done here," he said coldly. "We have enough evidence to investigate your involvement in these unlawful removals." The first officer stiffened. "You have no proof." Malcolm finally spoke, his voice calm but razor sharp. "Actually, we do." He pulled his phone from his pocket and turned the screen toward them. A recording had been playing the entire time. Every word, every action had been captured. The officers' faces drained of color. Before they could respond, two more agents entered the room, their presence sealing the officer's fate. Handcuffs clicked. Lisa watched as they were led away, her heart still hammering, but this time with relief. Then, just as she thought it was over, the FBI agent turned back to Malcolm. "Judge Carter, we need to talk. This case goes deeper than we thought." Lisa's breath caught. There was more, and their nightmare wasn't over yet. Lisa tightened her grip on her babies, still shaken but overwhelmed with relief. The officers were gone, justice had been served, but Malcolm's expression remained tense. He turned to the FBI agent. "How deep does this go?" The agent sighed, glancing at the hospital door. "We believe there's a network targeting certain families under false claims. This wasn't random. Someone wanted your children taken." Lisa's stomach twisted. The thought that someone had planned this, that they had nearly succeeded, was too much to bear. She looked at Malcolm, searching for reassurance. He placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We'll get to the bottom of it," he promised. The FBI agent nodded. For now, you and your family are safe. We'll be in touch." As the agents left, Malcolm finally exhaled, his shoulders relaxing just slightly. He turned back to Lisa, his eyes softening as he looked at their babies. "They're ours. No one will ever take them from us." Lisa felt tears spill down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of relief. She had nearly lost everything, but in the end, love, truth, and justice had won. And as she held her children close, she knew they were finally safe.